Hello everyone. I am going to start a video here. A lot of people are talking about the Aaron Rodgers. I don't even know how to describe it anymore. At this point, I really think that Green Bay needs to really look at what they gain and what they've lost. Um, Over the years, Rodgers has been a clutch player. There's no argument there. But with that being said, the amount of money Green Bay is shelling out to play a player or pay a player at his age sets them up for failure. Only reason why I'm saying this is when you're getting paid $150 million for a 3-year contract, how do you have any money to bring in personnel to support a quarterback like that at that price tag? Um, it's not feasible. He went on to say earlier this week that he thinks he can be an MVP. MVPs are great. The award is great. It really is. But here's the deal. In all the years he's played in Green Bay, he's made the one Super Bowl appearance in 2010. But they weren't paying him that amount of money, and they had talent at wide receiver. You had Jordy Nelson, James Jones, Randall Cobb, Greg Jennings, Donald Driver. I mean, you had some of the best, and Finley. I mean, there again, he's shooting himself in the foot, and if he wants to make that amount of money and produce what he did in Green Bay this year, I think we need to look at kind of what San Francisco has been through. They lost Trey Lance early in the season. Jimmy G got hurt. And now you got Proddy or Prudy, whatever you want to call him. It doesn't matter who is at quarterback as long as they can make the throws in certain situations. They are riding their defense, and their coaching knows that their quarterback, yes, he is very good, very talented for a rookie. And they got really lucky by picking him up in the draft. They found a diamond in a rough, kind of like back in the day when we watched Drew Bledsoe take that big hit, and it was against Green Bay that he took that big hit, and we may never have seen Tom Brady. So, like I said, it doesn't matter who your quarterback is as long as you can make the throws that need to be made when they need to be made. I know everybody's talking about um, Jordan Love. I watched him play the night Aaron got hurt against Philly, and I saw a lot of good things. I saw him hit Christian Watson in stride. Watson did the rest of the work. There's my point. You don't need to throw the ball 60, 50 yards down the field to make anything that these big plays that we're all used to in Green Bay. That's done. It's about getting the ball to the right personnel on the field. But with his contract, how can you get and re-sign some of these bigger players? I mean, Tunyon, he took a really bad injury, unfortunately, early in his career with Green Bay, and he lost a full season. Devontae Adams trade, that was huge, and I think Devontae wanted to sprout out on his own and see if Carr and him could relive some college stuff, and he needed a change of scenery. Devontae Adams, probably one of our best wide receivers that we've ever traded away. But you look back on that kind of stuff, and they traded him away, and then they gave Rodgers that big contract. Again, I don't have any beef with Aaron Rodgers. I think he's a great quarterback, Hall of Famer in my book. But the stats say it for themselves. He has struggled in the postseason, and he is kind of becoming what they call a choke artist. I don't think he's a choke artist. I think that he thinks that he needs to make the big plays and throw the ball and air it out. We all remember the Aaron Rodgers Hail Marys. I mean, how can you not remember them against Detroit, San Francisco, and then San Francisco ended up coming back and winning with a touchdown, or not San Francisco, excuse me, Arizona, when they played Arizona in that postseason game, and Arizona threw the ball to Larry Fitzgerald and took the ball right down the field and scored a touchdown. I think that was the turning point of Rodgers' career. Honestly, he thinks that he needs to be the top playmaker for the team. And at the amount of money that they're shelling out for him, he's trying. But with the 150 million on your head for the next 3 years, that's 50 million a year. That's a lot of money. How do you sign a quarterback to fill, or not a quarterback, a wide receiver or a weapon for him? How do you have the financial money to do that? And you got to have a defense to be able to stop the other team. It's not likely. I mean, if I was the GM for Green Bay, and Brian has, I have mixed feelings about Brian. I wasn't a huge fan of some of the stuff that he's done, but he's the GM. At the end of the day, his decisions he makes kind of affects the team. But what I have the most trouble with right now is phantoming that 150 million for 3 years. We just finished the first year of it. He's got 100 and some million guaranteed, I believe. How do we get out of this? Okay, there's been a lot of talk about trades, and he wants to land in the right spot. So with that being said, there's a lot of teams out there that are looking at him. You definitely have the Colts. I mean, they're not in the top running for him, but the Colts have a lot of issues on offense, and I think if you could get him in the right situation, the Colts could be a good team for that. You got a good line. You have Jonathan Taylor at running back. There's no doubt there. I watched him play college ball, and this guy can take hits and bounce off of people and just keep going. He's like a ping pong ball. And the harder he gets hit, the faster he moves. For wide receiver, they would have to do some stuff down there. But Derek Carr, as Derek Carr is exiting the Las Vegas Raiders, could we see Aaron go there? The talk is they want 2 first-round picks for Aaron Rodgers. I don't see that happening after his worst year. He's coming off his worst year since like 2008, which it wasn't a terrible year, but at the same time it wasn't great. And that's the kind of football he's been playing as of late. You have your moments of him shining and making plays, and then the next game you're watching him struggle to just get the ball off, and the accuracy sometimes isn't there, which we've all expected. He's everybody argues that he's the GOAT. I have no love lost for Tom Brady. I think he's a great quarterback. He's great at his job. But for Tampa Bay to not go into the postseason with a winning record has me a little nervous. With that being said, Rodgers didn't even make the postseason. You got beat by the Detroit Lions, which, again, the Lions are on a winning path with with the current setup, their coaching. I see a lot of weakness in Green Bay. If you keep Rodgers around, we could be in for a long, brutal next 5 to 8 years. Because Jordan Love already has made it very, very apparent that if Rodgers returns in 2023, he wants a trade. I think at this point, Green Bay's got to really look at things and just say, okay, what can we get for him? Because we're already got the $100 million hanging over our head. Whatever's guaranteed is hanging over their head. And Rodgers has done a lot of things throughout his career that make him a legend at Lambeau. Just like Favre, just like Starr. I mean, Favre was another one that was a diamond in a rough. We had Mankowski at quarterback, and Mankowski got hurt. Rest is history from there. Favre came out, tried his best, played really good ball. They never looked back. But I think at this point, looking back from this season, when you signed that contract with him, is this on the organization? Yes. Yes, it's on the organization for giving him that big contract with all that guaranteed money. But I really think that if you get rid of Rodgers and let Jordan Love try to do things, this offseason, if you're going to go that route, you need to look at what San Francisco's doing. They got a third-string quarterback in right now. Third-string quarterback running an offense like a perfect running engine. There's a couple misses here and there, obviously, but this kid is doing something kind of unremarkable for a rookie. A rookie to go into a divisional playoff game and beat the Dallas Cowboys, Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, Ezekiel Elliott, Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard and Zeke have a little bit of a history. They are very explosive players, but I really think at the amount of money that Green Bay is shelling and just kind of, in my opinion, lighting on fire. You're not reaping the benefits, the full benefits from your team because you're shelling out $150 million to Aaron Rodgers. But like I said, there's a couple other teams out there, AFC contenders. I did talk about the Raiders, the Jets. Oh my God, there is so much uncertainty for the Jets. Also with Tennessee. I mean, Tennessee has a pretty good team. They made a big mistake by trading A.J. Brown to the Eagles, but the Eagles, in my opinion, this last offseason made the biggest moves to make their team the best, one of the best in the NFL. Right now, I think San Francisco 49ers are the best coach team in the NFL, followed by, obviously, you got to give a lot of respect for Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and Travis Kelce. I mean, Travis Kelce, Green Bay, we drafted Chris King or something like that when we could have drafted Travis Kelce. Just saying, there's a lot of things in the past that maybe is making Rodgers kind of resent that he deserves this money because they haven't always put him in winning situations. But the first 2 years after Matt LaFleur took over, there's no reason why they didn't make it to an NFC or to a Super Bowl, in my opinion. Our defensive coordinator right now, Mr. Barry, is not on my top 20 list for defensive coordinators. He has a really good defense. I mean, you have Rasul Douglas, Jair. You have, hopefully you'll have Rashad Gary back. I would like to see him play again because he worked his way up from the practice squad, and he has taken over that role, that outside rush. He knows how to play it. He can, knows how to bull rush and get to the QB or the running back for that matter. But we really need Campbell as our middle linebacker. He's all over the field. He's not as explosive as like Parsons for Dallas, but that guy covers a lot of ground. He kind of reminds me of maybe a young version of Fred Warner. I mean, he wants to play. He loves the game, and Rodgers loves the game too. But I really think at the amount of money that Green Bay has shelled out to Rodgers in a guarantee, that's an arm and a leg. The rest of the team has the other arm and the other leg. How do you even walk down the street with one leg and one arm? You've given Rodgers too much control. Bringing Randall Cobb back, I don't think at this point is even an option. He's getting too old to be playing at that extreme level. I mean, he could be a slot for like third downs. Maybe you break up his role where he plays on first and third downs or something, where you're going to pass. But how do you re-sign Aaron Jones and have that dynamic duo in the backfield? That backfield carried Green Bay a lot this year. And I don't think there was enough respect for A.J. Dillon. A.J. Dillon, he's blossomed into a player that he could be a starting running back at any other team. Any other team. He has shown that he's not afraid to catch the ball out of the backfield. And the yards after the catch weren't as good as Jones. But to me, that's not even a fair comparison. Aaron Jones is kind of like a little bit hybrid player, kind of like Samuel for San Francisco. Or Christian McCaffrey for that matter. You can line him up, and you could still have A.J. Dillon in the backfield. You could throw him as a wing. You could throw him out and do some motion and change the look of your offense. But to do that, you have to really consider what you can get for Aaron Rodgers at this point, because, like I said, that amount of money, if you could free up some of that money, you could bring in a big-name wide receiver to help Christian Watson and Dobbs develop. I mean, there's talk of Stephon Diggs leaving Buffalo. He made a big scene after the game, after the loss against Cincinnati. Let's just be real. Cincinnati, T. Higgins is going to be available too. I believe he's going to be on an unrestricted free agent this year. He could be that other top wide receiver with Watson, and you could have Dobbs as a slot like Randall Cobb. And you could have A.J. Dillon line up in the backfield, and you could have Aaron Jones float around in the, he could be the wingman, he could be a wide receiver, he could line up on the line. It could be really cool to see this. But we have to get past the Aaron Rodgers era. And I just don't know how you go forward without knowing what the future holds for Aaron Rodgers as the GM, and Matt LaFleur for that. He needs to really think about what can these guys do with the cap that Rodgers has over their heads, and really look at the pros and cons. Here are the pros and cons in my opinion. You got a 39-year-old quarterback who has been legendary in Green Bay. But over the last 3 seasons, they've lost at Lambeau Field. Either in the postseason or like they did against Detroit this year. I don't want to call him a choke artist, but I think that he thinks because he's got all this control over Green Bay and their money that he's entitled. He's kind of got that vibe going, and I never wanted to see Rodgers go down this road because I thought that he was a very humble, very good person. I know he donates a lot of money for the wildfires in California. He's a great guy. But at the end of the day, to hold a team at this high ransom for your level of play, that's just like throwing all the chips in Texas Hold'em and not having any cards. You're just gambling and hoping. There was a lot of moving pieces this year with Adams leaving. And again, I'm going to say this as nice as I can. Who the hell thinks that Sammy Watkins can run and play at the level of Devontae Adams? Who even thought that that was even going to work? When they signed him, I was like, what are we doing? Why didn't we go for like Odell Beckham Jr. or some of these other bigger names? There was talk of trading for wide receivers throughout the year. That teams, that weren't going to make the playoffs and we had a chance and blah, blah, blah. And we've won how many in a row? There was no action taken there. As for the Packers overall, I think you really got to think long and hard. See what teams, the Jets obviously jump to my head because they do have a pretty good team. The Colts, like I said, they have a really good running back and a pretty decent offensive line as long as everybody can stay healthy. Their defense, pursuit on the ball, I wasn't real impressed. Jeff Saturday tried his best down there. It was kind of an unorthodox coaching decision to bring him in my opinion. But Jeff Saturday has been around. As for that, I think Green Bay really needs to look at their defense, the coordinator in particular. I watched a lot of the Packers games this year, and I was just like, man, we do not have the pursuit. That ball leaves the quarterback's hands. Everybody's standing up, looking around. The key to football, in my opinion, is speed, pursuit, and tackle. You need to do all three to be great. And in 2010, when they won the Super Bowl, or 2011, whatever it was, they did that. You had Clay Matthews. I believe you had Charles Woodson yet. There's a lot of possibilities to maybe make Amos into something like that, a hybrid player. He plays at that kind of level. Savage, I believe Rudy Ford is probably our best bet at safety just because he can cover so much ground. But the positives for this year that I saw was we made a mistake by giving Aaron that big contract. It's going to affect us for the next few years, but at what point do you just say, let's cut our losses and see what's out there and what's available for trade options? There was times in the Detroit game where Rodgers was throwing the ball and he was way off and he's yelling at the receivers, but I don't think he's seeing the same stuff those guys are seeing, and that's because they're young. They need to, part ways with Aaron Rodgers and then bring in a few loose ends on the offense. Your line is a little beat up. David Bakhtiari, as much as I thought he was going to be able to bounce back, he's had multiple surgeries. I think that he needs to probably move on as well for his health, just because ACL tears are terrible. I never teared an ACL. I did break my leg in 4 or 5 different places when I was in high school playing ball, but I was out of football for 18 months, according to the WIA in Wisconsin here. They would not let me come back because I had hardware in my leg until the surgery was complete, and I had to heal for 18 months. But I know I'm off topic there, but I'm just saying that it's really, really hard to come back from an injury. That I know that because my freshman year is when I had my leg broken. Making a tackle and a lineman fell over the top of the ball carrier, and the ball carrier, I kind of had my leg over him after the tackle, and the lineman fell on my leg, and that's what caused it to break. But I really think that you look at what you've seen this year, and I say you had enough. You've had enough. Reason being is you can part ways with him. If he wants to not go to that team and retire, that's even better. But the right situation right now is, in my opinion, is not to bring Aaron Rodgers back to Green Bay. It's hard. It's hard to think about all the years and some of the amazing comebacks he's had. But like I said, I remember watching that Arizona game down, I believe it was in Arizona. Green Bay was playing, and they were playing in the playoffs, and Larry Fitzgerald just got that ball. He caught it, and it was off to the races, and Arizona ended up winning that one and knocking us out of the playoffs. But in regards to Aaron Rodgers' future, I kind of look back on some of his past. Some of the wide receivers that he had good chemistry with, Jared Abbrederis, you had him. He was a playmaker, and you cut him. I can understand the frustration with some of the people that have come and gone from Green Bay, but they really haven't done very well in the past at drafting weapons for Rodgers. A lot of the times we draft people to develop them, and then they work out. This is the first year that he, in my opinion, was running around with his head cut off like a chicken. He didn't have the chemistry with anybody besides Randall Cobb. I mean, Christian Watson dropped that sure touchdown in Minnesota week 1, and that was kind of like, oh crap, this is how it's going to start. And it did. It killed us, and but we did get our revenge against Minnesota. We played really good defense. But here's my point that I want to make, and I'm going to call out Joe Barry. You need to get that defense finely tuned and make them pursue, tackle, gang tackle if you have to. You can get a strip fumble that way. Everybody's got to have the same thing in their head. You play with discipline, and you play the best game you can play, and you're going to win. You don't need Aaron Rodgers to carry you. You got to play both sides of the ball. And that defense, I watched them in London against the Giants, and it was terrible. And then you watch them against Minnesota and the second time, and it's like, okay, we're figuring it out. Miami, we are figuring it out. Were we really figuring it out in Miami? Or was it because Tua suffered another concussion? I'm not trying to knock Jair or Rasul Douglas, any of those guys. They're playing the best of their ability at their positions. But when you're getting paid, again, we're paying a cornerback substantial money, and Jair did play pretty well. But there was times where I was like, when you're getting that kind of money, how is he not lining up on the best wide receiver on the other team every play? That's how our defense played when I was in school. Your best guy versus our best guy. and everybody else cleans up the crap. You do your job, you pursue the ball, you make the tackle. These missed tackles and trying to go for these big shots, no. Wrap up, bring the ball carrier down, stop the forward progress. It all is on discipline. And I really think Green Bay could have really looked at, and I'm not trying to be biased, but I do follow college football a lot. And when Paul Chryst got let go from Wisconsin and Jim Leonhard was the interim coach for the team, the head coach, I saw a lot of potential out of him being able to come into the NFL and being a solid defensive coordinator. And again, there's a lot of things going on, and a lot of it revolves around Rodgers, but that defense has to come out, and their head needs to be on a swivel. That ball, wherever that ball goes, you're there. I don't care if there's 5 or 6 guys right there. You get in there and you either try to tackle the ball carrier, wrap up, and if you're the first one there and you wrap up and he's still trying to get away, you start swinging for that ball. Tillman from the Bears used to do that all the time back in the day. He would not be the first one there. He would come in and he would deliberately punch the ball out of the ball carrier's hands. He was trained to do that. The defense, in my opinion, needs a lot of work. You really got to look at what you have. You had Rudy Ford come out of nowhere. You had Nixon. That was the diamond in the rough this year. That kid wants to play. So if he's on special teams and that's all he does, that's fine. But if you can put him out as a cornerback, he can catch the ball. Guaranteed. He could be your slot corner. He could be that Charles Woodson that we used to love seeing come up, and he would come up and go right into like a nose tackle. I mean, he would get right up there, line up on the center, and he would either drop into coverage or shadow or be your what do they call that? Your kind of you're watching the QB and running back, and you just kind of fade into the middle and watch the play as it happens, and then you pursue after the ball's gone. You make sure the quarterback's not going to run, obviously. But, like I said, there's just so many opportunities, and I think that defense was sold short because there's a lot of potential there, and I just really saw the potential against the Vikings, and I didn't see the defense or offense, for that matter, against Detroit. Again, I think that when they played Detroit, they were like, "Oh, we're gonna walk all over them. We just beat Minnesota." Minnesota got knocked out in the first round of the playoffs by the Giants. Why? Their defense is terrible. Right now, as it stands, I really think with a few adjustments for Minnesota, they got Kirk Cousins. I don't know if Thielen's going to stick around, but you got Justin Jefferson, you got Cooks. I mean, your defense just needs a lot of work. And they probably will win the NFC North again. It'll be between Detroit Lions and Minnesota Vikings for the next couple of years if we stick with Rodgers, in my opinion. Just base that on what I saw this year, the up and down, and the way he was yelling at the receivers. I know he's trying to motivate them, but to call them out on a field and yell like that, I think it's kind of disrespectful. These guys are trying to learn an offense in a short amount of time. And Romeo Doubs, when he emerged early, when Christian Watson was hurt, I can recall Rodgers yelling at him for not being in the right spot on the field, and it's like, well, maybe he saw something different, but everybody's like, oh, why did he not do this? Why did he not go this way? If he saw an opening in zone coverage, Rodgers has to see where that receiver is going to go, not where he expects him to go. That falls on Aaron Rodgers. I'm sorry. I had a hard time watching him yelling at certain players for, in my opinion, just piss poor judgment on his part. But like I said, this is going to go on YouTube. I'm going to start a blog about the NFL. I have like I said, I'm a Packers fan at heart, but I do love the NFL, and I just want to shout out. I watched the Buffalo Bills game this weekend, and I want to shout out to Damar Hamlin. I'm just happy to see he's up and out of the hospital, recovering, and I'm very grateful that the staff was on the field that night to help him. I've seen injuries, but this was totally different. It was scary. Watching it even from home, can't imagine the guys on the field. And then I want to get this off my chest. Worst announcers that are in broadcasting for the NFL, Joe Buck and Troy Aikman, get out of here. No one wants to hear about the glory days. I'm sorry. Troy was a great quarterback, but that's the past. The way Joe talks to Troy is like Troy is out in the game. I hate it. Comparing everything to himself. I mean, I get you've done a lot of great things. Write a book about it. Don't tell me while you're broadcasting a game. I really don't care. So, with that being said, I just wanted to shout out to Damar Hamlin as well. I just hope that he can make a full recovery. And suffering something like that, I don't think I would want to go back to it. I think I would want to try to maybe get into like the coaching staff, or maybe he could become one of their physical staff for the sidelines for injuries. I also think the NFL really needs to take a stronger look at their concussion protocols. And this thing that happened to Hamlin was really hard. I was watching it with my fiance, and she was in the shower at the time, and I went in there and I said, I think I just saw somebody die on the field. And she's like, no. And I was like, yeah, you got to get out of the shower and come see this. She got out of the shower, and Joe Buck and Troy Aikman talking about that they're going to only have 5 minutes to get warmed up, and I rewound it so Sam could see it. And Samantha was just like, oh my God. She's like, he took like 2 steps and just went down. I said, yeah. I said, I think he had like a mini heart attack or a stroke. Well, then we started getting more details released. Just the amount of concussions that have happened over this year, I really think anybody that's involved with any type of shoulder pad to helmet or neck area, automatic red flag. The officials and the coaching and the NFL all have to put this in a handbook. If you take a shot to the head, you need to go to the blue tent and be evaluated. Tua tried to play in week 15 or 16 against the Packers, and you watched him. He wasn't himself. How do you not take the time to look into this a little bit deeper? But like I said, I'm really getting tired of the Aaron Rodgers saga. Every year for the past 3 years, it's the same song and dance. Oh, I'm going to need some time to think about this. But I could be MVP again. Maybe. In the right situation. I need 4 superstar wide receivers. And an offensive line. And a defense that can produce turnovers. And I still want $50 million a year. Guaranteed. Not happening, buddy. 39 years old. It's time for Green Bay to pick up their loose ends, dust themselves off, and get ready to play real football. And with Jordan Love, I think we can play real football. He just needs to make the throws when he needs to make them. If you keep Aaron Rodgers, I don't think there's any chance that you can keep Aaron Jones. So you're going to give up a potential Hall of Famer, I think. Aaron Jones has done a lot for the organization as well, and I think he gets left in the dust because Aaron Rodgers takes all the spotlight. But this whole thing of, oh, in the right situation I could be MVP. I don't care about MVP. I want the title to come back to Titletown. And if you can't do that, time for you to go. Bye, everybody.